Hello, everyone. This video is going to be on food. What should we feed our children? What would be the most optimal thing and healthiest thing for them? And I don't really want to get into how you should feed them, like this way, like vegan, vegetarian, uh, only fruit. We've talked about a lot on this channel, or anything like that here, or even meat. It's just more of an overview of how we should actually go about feeding our children in general, because there's a lot of things that all of these different people that focus on these different things and ways to eat leave out, which when a child's really young, it can really affect their digestive system, and their digestive system, as ours, has a lot to do with our ability to comprehend things, our ability to learn things, our ability to grow, our ability to think, to talk, to do anything, to do anything. If because when we have a digestion system that is full and clogged and constantly processing things, it puts all of our blood into our digestive system, so it puts us in kind of a sedative type of mode for us to rest so that we can digest things. It's a natural thing that our body does. But during the early growth process as a child, it's very important to have proper digestion with things. And all of these different people, particularly vegans and vegetarians, they're terrible with digestion, with the type of things that a lot of times they're eating and how they're eating it is really what it comes down to, is how you're eating it. I don't want to get, again, into great detail in this video. Just give everyone a few ideas on the most optimal way to go about feeding your child. And you can do it with any way that you eat. It doesn't matter, because it has to do with combinations, and it has to do with how you prepare things and how often you eat. First of all, don't snack. Snacks are terrible. Don't give, do, if your child is hungry, that's when you should feed them, first of all. But that's not a snack. They want something because they their stomach is done processing what it is, and let's put something else into it. Now, there's actually two reasons someone can be hungry. Either they need something in them to help process what's in them, or there is room for them to process something else. And let me start from the beginning. First, I would say that it's best for when anyone, children, wake up, because this will also translate to anyone in general. Drink water. Drink lemon water. Just drink plain. We drink distilled water. And make that your first thing that you do every morning, so that you can get your body moving. Lemon water is great too. Maybe apple cider vinegar water. If you like apple cider vinegar is even better than lemon. Coconut vinegar, maybe you can get raw coconut vinegar as well. That's great. Those acidic compounds are going to get your body digesting and moving and flowing with what's already in there. So it's going to help you excrete what is in your digestive system, so you can clean out for the next thing. So you always want to start with water. Water is always number one. Water and liquids. Teas. You still want to make sure you have enough water. Just water. But water with teas, maybe water, you can infuse some different fruits and vegetables in it. Juices. You don't want to get too high on just fruit juice, though. You definitely want to incorporate green juices and different herbs and substances in that. Different roots and different plethora of vegetables. Because one of the other things that it comes down to is variety. you want to give your children at least an option of variety to see what they actually enjoy themselves, because they know their body the best out of anyone. And the best thing to do is when they're young is to start with just a big palette of things that they can choose from. Us with our children, they breastfed until they uh, did not desire to breastfeed anymore, and even while they're breastfeeding, which they're still, Naya still is right now, uh, they slowly began eating because we were. So they got interested in food eventually. It's not instant. It's not instant. Naya did not choose to really start even trying things until about 1.5. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Breast milk is all they need. That's it. Breast milk has everything. You can look at them and see that they're healthy. They do not need to be eating food whatsoever. And you're going to want to start with simple things, of course. Even in the first few years, you're going to want to keep it somewhat simple of them eating. I shouldn't say few years. About the first year or so, you want to keep it simple. Fruit, avocados, bananas, apples, because she had teeth by then. Most kids will probably have a full mouth of teeth, I would say, before they're actually ready to start eating anything. Because I really think that's one thing that children naturally get first before they actually have a desire to want to really start trying things and tasting things. I think that's just a thing that naturally occurs from what I've seen. If not, then you're going to have to start with simpler things. Bananas, avocados, and things that you can mash up. You can blend it, but at that same time, you're creating an oxidation and you're not allowing them to digest it as well the same, which there's a reason to use the blender, and there's also a reason not to use the blender. So it's all in your situation that you're in. But so most kids are going to have teeth, and they're going to be able to try many different types of fruit, which is definitely the first place I would always start is fruit. Because fruit is always the easiest to digest. That's always the way to go if you're looking to clean out your system and even get started. If you fast, the first thing you do is fruit, because that's the easiest. That's going to get your digestive system flowing again. Your body can alkalize it because of the sugars. It moves through it easily. It gives you energy right away, and you're ready to go. It's also the first thing that a child should be ingesting, because it's the easiest for them. It's the easiest for them to digest, and it's going to get them used to that feeling of what digesting is. Because when they're having milk, their digestive system isn't working the same as when they're actually eating. It works completely different. And if you've ever done liquid fast, water fast, you know that, because your digestive system actually changes what it's doing, and it stops processing as much, and it actually starts pushing and cleaning things out, which is why you fast. So you can look at a child starting to eat as coming out of a fast. You got to go in it slowly. You do it too fast, and you're automatically right then you're going to clog them. You're going to get their digestive system in not a good place, because they do have the bacteria in there already from the mother's milk, but they don't have the actual processing ability, because their system hasn't been put into that mode yet by fruit, which is the best thing. Even like fruit juices will give it a little bit of a different thing, because that sugar in it is different than the sugar in mother's milk. Completely different. Mother's milk is the exact perfect thing for them that digests exactly easily, perfectly. Fruit juice, vegetable juice, is going to get it working in a little bit different way and get those different enzymes from those fruits and vegetables in there that is even going to make it easier to digest those things when they do start eating them whole and chewing on them. After fruit, like our kids, they they were able to eat a whole, not eat a whole apple, but hold a apple and eat it. No one ever showed them. It's just something that they pick up on from watching you. Your children learn a lot from watching you, and when they decide to actually they want to take a bite, they will, and they'll probably be able to hold it and figure that out for themselves at a very young age, just based on observation. Um, then you can get into vegetables, but you want to make sure it's easily digestible vegetables. At this young of an age, I would not give your children any meat because meat is very fibrous and it's not easy to digest. If you are someone who believes that you need to eat meat, by all means, go about it. But um, as a parent, and just saying what is best for the child, I wouldn't do it until they get probably a couple years into really eating normally. Maybe not that long. I keep overestimating myself for my own uh, opinion on things instead of what would work more for other people. After they've been eating vegetables and stuff, and they're actually used to digesting vegetables, because there's different levels of vegetables on how to digest things, which I'll talk about lightly here. Then start incorporating small amounts of meat, in a really watery form that is more easily digestible to them. Obviously, in small quantities, um, and build up on it just as you would with anything, um, until you see what is fit, until they're really satisfied. Because really it comes down to when the child is satisfied. They will stop eating when they're done. Don't ever try to force your child to eat anything. Don't ever try to make your child finish what's on their plate. If they're done, they're done. That's it. It's a good thing to have a dog. uh, so that was just a side note. Don't ever force yourself to either to eat anything else. If you feel full, satisfied, just stop it. Like I said, this goes for everyone. This isn't really just for children. But us as parents, we need to know how to do this for ourselves so that we can do it for our children. It's the same thing. So I would say wait till around 3-ish, at least, until children start to have meat. I personally would wait longer, just because of how I've seen meat digest. I've digested meat. I've played with digesting meat recently. I don't like it personally. I don't like it. It doesn't sit well with me. I'd rather stick to easily digestible vegetables and fruit. I like to keep my digestive system moving. But it depends on what your beliefs are, where you are, and what you want to go with. I'm not here to say that you're wrong whatsoever. If you feel that the child needs to eat meat sooner because of they need protein, then by all means do it. But always go in it slowly and be very observant in what you're doing, because you don't want to ever overburden your children. There's no reason to jump into something. Just do it a little bit at a time, as with anything, even with fruit, even with vegetables, which we're going to talk about now. So there's different levels of vegetables with how they're easily digestible. I would start with raw vegetables first, and I would actually start with the vegetables that are actually fruits, that people call vegetables. Cucumbers, definitely. They probably already are eating cucumbers if they're eating fruit. Cucumbers are awesome. Excellent stuff for children to eat. Very watery, very easy to digest, extremely healthy. Um, Peppers, tomatoes, they're not as easy to digest as a cucumber just because of what it is. We actually peel our cucumbers just because the skin's um, a little bit tougher, but it's up to you. It's up to how you like it. We like to just eat the inside of it. Uh, Tomatoes, peppers, um, these things are easy to digest as well. Absolutely, they're fruits, really. They don't have the sugars in them, so they're not the same as the sugary fruits, but they're still fruits. Tomatoes have fruit or have sugar, just not a ton in it. And tomatoes are delicious. Start with things like that. Start with salads, but not lettuce. Lettuce is not really like lettuce does not digest good. Lettuce is not really something that people should be eating much. Leafy greens in general, and definitely not in large quantities. And it really has no place in children's stomachs because it's going to clog them. Way too much fiber, way too hard for them to digest. Um, that we don't really eat lettuce at all. If we do eat lettuce, it's a little bit in something, and it's a really watery lettuce, usually romaine. Only time we really even use lettuce or leafy greens is juice. We make green juice with our leafy greens because there's great stuff in there that's really good for your digestive system. That fiber just does not bode well in your digestive system. It really gets it stuck, and it doesn't go through it very well. Uh, so fruits along those lines. Then vegetables again that are really fruits. You're gonna have to steam these. I would suggest would be the best option. Zucchini, uh, eggplant. Um, what else do we have here? Squashes. Uh, Things along those lines that you can steam that are still going to have a very high water context and be very good for them. Also, potatoes. Potatoes are really good. Sweet potatoes are the best by far. Sweet potatoes, yams, those are always the best. Uh, the white potatoes aren't terrible, but they're not nearly as nutritionally dense as the yams. Carrots. You can steam carrots because when you steam the roots, it makes them base. It's basically like a fruit. It turns them into mush, which is excellent. That's excellent for your children. And like I said, the zucchinis and squashes, eggplant, and things like that. Again, it depends on what's in your local area. I'm just saying things that are commonly at grocery stores. Or depends on what you grow yourself, because that's always the best way to go. Uh, then I would, after that, that's already giving them a huge array of options. The longer you can sustain something like that, um, would be optimal. Another thing, fat. Fat is very optimal for children. Oils, healthy oils, uh, cold pressed, raw. I don't like using that word. Unrefined oils. The reason I don't like using the word raw is because it actually doesn't mean anything on a label. It's just a label. It doesn't mean anything. It's marketing. They can heat it in all types of different things in the process and still put raw on it just because they needed to process it to even get it into the state that it's in and heat it through whatever, and they can still slap that raw on it because that product that it created out of the original thing was never heated. It's marketing. You gotta be careful with labels. So oils, ghee, get ghee. Ghee is the best. Ghee is amazing for children. I would recommend giving your children ghee um, when they're having fruit. Ghee is awesome, and I will promise you they will love ghee. They will love it. The best way to get ghee is we get ours off eBay, which if you're interested in what we get, I'll leave a link in the description on this video. But Amazon would be a good way because there's a certain way that it should be made, and the ghee that you get in stores that I've always seen is not made correctly. It's just clarified butter. There's a difference between clarified butter and true ghee. True ghee is made from raw milk and is cultured and it's churned while it's being made, and it's a whole different process that takes hours. As opposed to clarified butter, you can actually go buy butter, put it in the pot, clarify it, and you can have it like that. It's way cheaper than that buying what they have at the store too. It also ghee should come from cows with the correct proteins in their milk. which would be Desi cows, Jersey cows, um, cows along that lineage, because Jersey cows come from Desi cows, and not Holstein cows, because Holstein cows are the ones that have the harder to digest proteins in them, and it's going to make it hard on your child's digestive system. So there's a way you can get protein right there. It's from ghee. Excellent. Good, great source of fat, great source of protein. I'd recommend for everyone to take ghee at least once a day. I would take it twice a day, and I would use it to cook with everything. That's why we buy it by the gallon, because it's amazing stuff. It really is. Uh, so when you're with the vegetables, we put ghee or avocado. We put fat on things because fat is awesome for kids. Sugar is great to get things started, but fat is really where all of the nutrients can come together and be given to them. Um, After starting with something simple like that, you can start mixing spices, herbs, different things with it to see what they like, what they don't like, and do that. Um, Mix it all together. Steam some zucchini, mix it with some avocado. Uh, Throw some spices in there and see how they like it, because that's really what it comes down to, is what do they like, and that would be very easy to digest for them as well. Do the same thing with potatoes. You can just steam potatoes. You can dip potatoes in avocado. You can mash potatoes, throw some ghee in it, make it creamy, throw some spices in it. You can do all kinds of different things with it. Um, then you can start looking at the more denser vegetables after you've went through that, because you always you want to give your kids the most options as possible, and truly in grocery stores there ain't a lot of options. It's very sad with the options that are in grocery stores. uh, you're gonna look at like broccoli, cauliflower, um, celery is pretty good on the digestive system. It is very fibrous, but it's not like lettuce, because of how the cellulose is in it. You can even eat it raw. We don't really eat it raw. Um, but if you chop it into small pieces, you can eat it raw, so that the fibers aren't really long. And it's mostly water, so it moves through you pretty easily. It doesn't have the same fiber weaving like a leafy green has. Um, Green is a solar panel. And I would always recommend to cook broccoli, cauliflower. Always, I would never eat them raw. It is not good to eat raw. It is not good on your digestive system. At least steam them to some degree. It is very apparent when you eat those raw things that it's not good on your digestive system. You start bloating, you start getting gas, and that shouldn't really be happening if you're moving things through you easily. I know that it's very common for people to say that they're excellent for you raw, but they're not good to digest. And truly, digestion should always be number one. Number one. When it comes to eating, you always should think about digestion. If you are being health orientated, there's other circumstances where you want to have fun, sure. But if you're thinking health orientated, you want to focus on digestion first and foremost. Um, you can steam that. You can cook it in a sauce, saute it in some ghee and some other type of oil. Um, there's a bunch of things you can do with it to soften it up and make it easier to digest. We do the same thing with celery. We usually make some type of masala, or people like to call it curry dish, with our vegetables. Sometimes we will just steam it, of course, steam some potatoes and stuff, and go simple with it. But we really enjoy putting everything together with a bunch of spices and the ghee, and cooking it all together, because the ghee really pulls out and collects all the nutrients and everything, and it's delicious. It's really good, and it's really good for you, and it's really satisfying. It's very satisfying. Um, that's what we have most evenings. We change it up sometimes. It depends. Sometimes we'll go in complete opposite way with something, and just for fun, because we're all here to have fun. I'm just here. I'm here talking about in this specific video what would be optimal. Uh, it's not always going to be what you're doing or what we're doing. Um, After Brussels sprouts, you can throw in there. Uh, you can do cabbage. We really don't like eating cabbage too much. The consistency of it. Sometimes we will, but not too often. Beets, I forgot that you can do that. Always steam those, throw those in something. You can make a sauce out of beets, blend them up, steam them first, and then mash them, and you can do that with potatoes too. I mean, there's so many different things you can do um, to incorporate just plants into something completely new. What else? Man, by that point, you've pretty much put everything in front of them that's at the grocery store, unless you go to fish and meat, which I would start with fish first. If you're going to go down in that way, start with fish. Start with less fibrous fish too, so like salmon, um, the red fishes. Those are usually less easier to digest. They melt easier. Start with that, then maybe go towards tuna and things that are a little bit denser, which would be the white fish. And then do meat, which I would start with. I would start with beef. A lot of people would say not that that's not their way to go. I would start with beef, of course, grass fed and finished, 100%. Local is always the best. If you can go to that farm and get it, that's way better. Um, and go about it that way. And of course, a little bit at a time. Cut it up nice and small for them, and give them some of that. The fattier pieces are the better pieces for everyone, so I would stick to those. Um, and the reason I say beef because beef is it's the healthiest in general out of any of them. Just the animal itself and how it lives and what it does. Beef would be the healthiest out of any of them if raised in the correct way. After that, you can go in any direction. Go with uh, chicken. You can go with pork. You just always want to make sure that it was raised the right way. Eggs. I forgot about eggs. Eggs and milk. These are two great things. So, if your child's still breastfeeding, there's absolutely no need for milk. Truly, there is no need for milk in general, but some families, that's a normal thing to have. And I would, of course, recommend raw milk. Find raw milk in your area. I know there are some states, I know New Jersey is one of them, where they don't allow raw milk, which is crazy. And it's not much you can do there. I personally would suggest not drinking milk at all then, just because milk isn't easy to digest, and there's other ways to get that protein that is in it. And if you're not getting raw milk from the correct milk, because like I said, you don't want the Holstein cows, you want to get it from a Jersey cow or what's the other popular one? Gerson, Gernson cow. When we get raw milk, that's the cows that the farm we go to has. Those are the two cows, and those are really the most common two to use for milk production because of how much they produce and uh, how how much fat is in it. There's a lot of fat content in those cows, and those cows come from Desi and Gers and the cows that are over in India, and they're even in South America, and they may even be roaming wild here somewhere. But those would be the best way to go if you're going to do milk. Raw milk, you never want to drink milk cold, especially for your children, because it makes it way harder to digest because it still has lactose, and that lactose needs to be broken down somewhat. So you want to always at least warm the milk in a pot to a nice warm temperature. It's best to boil it. It's best to heat it, not quickly because you don't want to just burn it. You want to heat it at a medium low temperature until it starts to boil. Turn it down to a simmer, let it go for a few minutes, and then drink it. Let it cool down and drink it, because that breaks down the lactose in it and it makes it much easier to digest. Even better if you throw some spices in there while you're doing that. Throw some cloves, cinnamon, ginger, turmeric, cardamom, allspice, nutmeg. There's plenty. You can throw some cayenne in there. It depends what you like. You can throw all different types of things in there. And that is going to also make it easier to digest because those spices are warming, so they get your body moving, and it makes it easier to digest the milk. And the milk actually takes in all those nutrients from those spices, and it just makes it more nutritious. It's great, and it's delicious. But you also don't want to make sure you drink too much at once because milk still is not super easy to digest. So even for me as an adult, I'll only drink 8 ounces at once, and I drink it over about 15 minutes. That's when I feel the best doing it, when I am drinking it. For your children, I would do about half of that, and because they're going to drink it probably quickly, and they very well may want more, because it's a delicious thing that they're not fully aware of their body yet, and it's like a treat almost because of how sugary it is. Raw milk is so much more sugary than processed milk, and it's like a treat, so they're naturally probably going to want more because it went down so easily and so quickly, but they're not completely in tune with their body to be able to do that. Hold on one second. My camera went out here. One moment. There we go. Okay. So they're not completely in tune with their bodies to know the digestion process fully yet. So you have to be the parent at that point, because they probably will want more. Because our kids do, but you have to know at the same time when enough is enough, depending on what it is, and you know that through yourself. You got to do it first, figure it out, then you can correctly dose it for your children. Give them the correct amount. Eggs, the other thing I missed. Eggs, I would say you could start eggs around. Our children eat eggs. Probably they started eating them when they were eating vegetables, steamed vegetables and cooked vegetables. Kai eats eggs. Naya does not. Naya does not, because she's 1.5. Kai just turned 3, so there's quite a big age difference. And Naya probably won't for another half year or year and a half. We'll see, or half year to a year. We'll see. She really doesn't have much interest in them anyways. I think it would be fine to give your kid raw egg, but you have to make sure it's from a good source and that the chickens were raised correctly and all that stuff. To do that, because raw eggs are always the best to digest at room temperature, and they're always the most nutritious. You're going to get everything out of them. You're going to get the live bacteria, enzymes, and everything great out of them. But like I said, you have to make sure they're from the right source to do that. Otherwise, the way I cook eggs usually, the best way would be to poach them, definitely, because you're putting it in water to still to be the best, and it's it's barely cooking it. That yolk is still nice and runny, how it should be, but it is warmed and cooked to where it's getting rid of some of the bacteria and all of that stuff that possibly should not have been in there from the first place, depending on the source of the egg. Depends on what type of egg you have. If you're getting eggs from a good source, from a healthy chicken that is allowed to roam free on a huge plot of land, you don't have to worry about that stuff. But I would say poach would be number one. The way that we usually do it is we fry them, which I lightly fry them. I fry them until the bottom is cooked and the top of it is somewhat a little bit cooked, and then I just slide them right off the plate. I do cook them in butter usually, just to save the ghee a little bit. But that leaves the yolk really runny still fully, because it will start cooking from the bottom if you cook it too long, and so you have to make sure you don't do it too high as well. And it even leaves the white a little bit runny still, which you want because it makes it easier to digest. The egg white being fully cooked makes it extremely hard to digest, and the same with the yolk. A fully cooked yolk is terrible to digest. Just put it in your mouth, and it's like eating chalk. Like a hard-boiled egg is terrible. Um, Kai does like soft-boiled eggs, so we will soft-boil eggs, which all it does, we do it for about 5 or 6 minutes on a boil, put them under cold water. The outside of the egg, the white will be dense to where you can peel it, but the inside will still be a little bit runny, and the yolk will be completely runny, the yolk is really the best part. And the one thing I was going to say is Naya does eat yolk sometimes, just the yolk. Because that's really the best part of the whole entire egg, is the yolk. The white is good. The white is like pure protein, and the yolk is like pure cholesterol and fat. It's super nutritious for you. It's brain food. It's super good for your brain. Same with raw milk. Very high in cholesterol, good for your brain. That's why I wanted to mention both of them. They're super, super good foods for your health. You just have to make sure that you're ingesting them the right way so that your body can process them and get the nutrients out of them. If you overwhelm your body, it cannot get the nutrients out, and it's going to get strained, your body's going to get stressed, and you're not going to get what you could out of the food. Not at all, because your body needs to be in a relaxed state to be able to digest things correctly. So that is what I wanted to say regarding the food and what would be optimal to feed your children. One other thing I will say is the environment is absolutely essential as well, though. Don't watch TV, don't be on electronics, don't be doing any of this stuff while you are eating so that your children don't want to do that. Focus on the food, focus on what you're eating, and focus on chewing it and swallowing and the process of it, because that really gets your digestive system moving so that you can correctly digest these things. Sit down as a family and eat. It doesn't matter if everyone's eating something different, that's fine. Children don't have the necessarily conception that they need to eat the same thing as you. They may want to, and they will be able to one day. But depending on how old they are, they're not even going to second guess it. They're just going to see what's in front of them and have fun with it. So Naya is, she likes to try things, absolutely, but she really doesn't throw too much of a fuss when we won't let her have a certain thing, because it's not that big of a deal in the end. It's just food. There's so many other things to go with. You can't focus too much on food because there's so many other things we're doing besides that. But environment. So don't create a stressful environment. Keep it relaxed, calm, and allow your food to digest afterwards. Relax for 30 minutes or so. Allow it to digest. They say to stay out of the pool after you eat for at least like 10-15 minutes so that you don't get cramps. That's so that your body can digest. Because if you go in water, you're compressing your body and your digestive system in a way, putting pressure on it, and you definitely can't digest that, which is why you get cramps. But just in general, you want to relax after eating, and you want to do it so that you can facilitate that for your children as well, because then they're going to take that into their later years and have that as a centerpiece when they eat. That when I eat, I'm doing this, which creates a great um, sense of doing what you're doing and not being worried about distractions going on all around. If you're eating, you're eating. If you're building something, you're building something. If you're tending to your plant, you're tending to your plant. If you're walking through nature, you're walking through nature, looking at everything, focusing on everything. You have to be doing what you're doing, and food is no different. We should not be watching, doing other things while we're eating, because it is a complete distraction for us. We end up not chewing enough. We end up not realizing how much we're eating. We end up eating more, and we really don't realize that we're actually eating and ingesting what we're watching, which is interesting when you think about that. But I'll leave this one here at this and make sure. Of course, you probably already did this actually. You probably already liked this video. And you probably already subscribed to me, but if you're not, go ahead and do it. Why not, right? You love this video. You know you did. And let me know. Send me an email, leave comments. Let's start a conversation. What would you like me to speak on next? What would you like me to speak on next? Anything. What would you like me to get into? I plan on making videos regularly on here from now on. And have a wonderful rest of your evening and day, or wherever you may be